Hey friend, today we are going to go over how to paint a watercolor sunset. I am so excited to do this tutorial with you. I'm also going to be covering how to paint these pine trees as well. Without further ado, let's get painting. Today we're going to be using these 6 colors I've got from Winsor Newton. We've got Naples Yellow, Cadmium Free Orange, Winsor Red, Rose, Purple, and Black. Feel free to use whatever colors you have that are similar on hand. In addition to that, I have my 5x7-inch watercolor paper taped down, and I'll be using my size 2, 4, and size 16 Princeton round brushes. First thing I want to do is take a wet sponge brush and just brush this water all the way across my page just to get it ready for some wet and wet technique with all the different variety of colors that we're going to be using to kind of bleed out in a watery sunset. This may feel a little bit fast at first, but the reason why we're going to be using all these colors kind of quickly is because we don't want our paper to fully dry by the time that we get to the second or third color. We really want to utilize the timing correctly in order to get this nice wash of color. And to do that, we kind of work a little bit quickly. So the first color I'm laying out here is yellow. I'm using Naples Yellow, Cadmium Free, or Cadmium Yellow are both very beautiful, vibrant yellows to use as well. And I'm going to apply the yellow about halfway up the page here. All right, next I'm going to use some of our orange, and I'm going to do just a few streaks of it. I'm letting some of the yellow here pop through the orange and just doing a few left to right horizontal movements with my hand and my brush here. Okay, next up I want to do just some red here. And I'm going to apply this red all the way to the top. Okay, now I'm going to just dab my brush off on a paper towel, get a little bit more water, and I'm going to pull from some of this orange we laid out earlier, and I'm going to drag it all the way up to the top, to the red. And now you can kind of see some of the bits of orange, some of the bits of red are slowly kind of making their way down and incorporating throughout the artwork. Now I just want a few pops of brighter red here. So I'm just going to take some red and just in a horizontal motion, just like we've been doing, I'm going to apply some of that color just to have some pops here and there. Okay. Now my yellow is kind of muted a bit, so I want to add just a few pops of this yellow here, just so it doesn't get lost. Okay, so now I want to take my rose color and I want a few pops of this vibrant rose. And just to dilute the pigment a bit and the value of the color, I just take a watery size 16 brush. And I'm just kind of toning it down with some water and just kind of gliding the pigment across. Okay, I want to reintroduce our orange a little bit more. We're going to be layering quite a bit, but I definitely want some pops of orange. And if you have any water pooling, you can dab your brush off of some of the excess water and just use your large brush, and adding some pressure with your hand, you can kind of lift some of the excess water that way. Okay, the last color that I would like to apply to my sunset is going to be a little bit of purple. And I want to be careful not to apply purple into any orange or yellow because that'll be kind of muddy. But you can put a little bit of purple up towards the top where we've laid out some of our rose and some of our red color. The purple will mesh well with those. I'm not going to be adding too much purple, but it's just enough to give the sunset a little bit more depth. I'm just guiding that purple across my paper. I'm going to lift some of this excess water here as needed. You can even add some highlights using your dry brush, and it'll kind of lift and give some of this white from the paper to show through. Okay. So now at this point, I don't want to overwork anything too much. So once the sky is at a place where I'm good with it, I'm just going to put down my brush and let the water just do its thing, letting the colors bleed out into this wet and wet sky. And once this is dry, we are going to apply some pine trees. Now that my watercolor sunset sky is dry, I'm going to do just some crooked lines with my size 4 round Princeton brush. And I'm just doing this swooping kind of jagular line here, about 1 centimeter to 1 inch or so from the bottom of the page. And now I'm going to fill this in with black. And then from here, I'm just going to use my size 2 brush, and I'm going to lay out some watercolor pine tree silhouettes, still carrying on with our black. And what I like to do when I am going to paint pine trees is I like to kind of lay out some of the pine trees ahead of time just by applying some trunks using these lines here. I like to kind of have a variety of heights and angles of the trees. So some are slightly crooked, some are quite small. Okay, so here's my layout for the pine trees. And pine trees have sort of almost like this elongated cone shape where the top is daintier and thinner. And so I'm gonna just do a few little dash lines coming off from the top here using really light pressure with my hand. From there, I'm going to gradually increase these dash lines, and they're very irregular, as you can see. But I'm going to increase the width of these dash lines and allow some gaps to pop through of the sky in between the branches here. So it's not a solid triangle or a solid cone shape, but there's some irregular quality to it. But towards the bottom, that's where it's going to really increase in the width, kind of mimicking that subtle cone shape, while still allowing some of the sky to pop from behind. So I'm just going to carry this process where I just have some dainty lines here just towards the top, and then they gradually are going to increase in width until we reach the bottom of the wash of black that we just applied. And again, I'm using really light pressure. The very top is quite pointed and elongated. And I'm just going kind of left to right with light pressure with my brush and just allowing for just this rugged texture that's quite irregular on either side. And if needed, you can always do a second layer of branches over top the first round of going down the trunk of the tree. If your branches are too scarce, you can always do a second layer just to build off of that. But I'm just going to carry on with this process for the rest of the trees here. And when we come back, we will see how this all turns out with the completed trees and the tape peeled off. I love how this sunset turned out in the vibrancy of the colors between the yellow, the orange, and the pops of purple. It honestly just has a really nice pastel kind of quality to it that I love. I hope you enjoyed this watercolor tutorial. Be sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss any further watercolor tutorials.